All right, everyone, we are officially live on YouTube. So thank you again to those that attended the earlier time slot. We hope you really enjoyed the art making process. And to those of you who are just joining now for this time slot, welcome. We're so excited for you to watch these wonderful artists create for the next 4 hours. So just to introduce the artists, we will have Jihee, Claire Molenda, Michael Darin, and Nikki Kelsay performing, and all creating their art pieces in the next 4 hours. And feel free to interact in the chat and leave comments and questions, and the Aid to Create committee will monitor the chat, and we'll be talking to the artists throughout the day and answering all of your questions. So we're looking forward to a really exciting afternoon, and we can't wait to see what you all create.
Are we live yet? Anybody know?
Yes.
Hey.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. Let's see what you're creating today.
What I'm up to? Going right now, luckily. Beautiful weather.
Really nice.
Yeah. I am working on a kind of a recycled, reclaimed piece. And like this is my inspiration. These kind of two drawings.
Okay.
And so it's the year of the ox, and so I'm making an ox out of all these parts. Actually, this chair was like the first thing I found, and it gave me a lot of inspiration. And then this top piece, and so anyway, I'm using all these sort of saws, and I'm gonna make this ox on here after I make this checkerboard pattern is what I'm working on right now. Sort of a background of with these pages.
Very impressive. So, have you ever worked before, like with people watching?
So we were supposed to do this last year,
I
art
know.
design, and we didn't get to. That's why we're doing it this year. You know, I have in a way. I used to do some demonstrations for other things. It wasn't necessarily art. And then I taught art to my son's school. And so I did a lot of stuff with them, and that taught me a lot how to talk about art.
That's good, because
and
yeah,
do art. Yeah.
I did it 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I had never painted with anybody watching. I mean, I always work in silence and in my studio, and
yeah.
And it was such different, but I really liked it because it was very stimulating.
Well, I encourage the kids in the class because everybody kind of wants to run and do it behind secret and come out and be like, ta-da. You don't really have anybody talking to you along the way and giving you any insight. Yeah. And if they don't like it immediately, it's like this whole reactionary thing. And it's like if you just are able to expose yourself a little bit and talk about it a little bit, it may even be better, you know. And so I kept telling them that. And, you know, after a while, they started showing, you know, they oh, can you look at this? Or you'd see them kind of like talking about it. And I mean, I think that's the best way to learn. You know?
The process is very important, especially for a young artist, I think.
Well, and you think, how does somebody do that? You know, if you don't know how somebody does something, you're never going to try it, you know, usually. You're too scared. Yeah, so I'm just using some compound, some matte medium mixed with a little bit of heavier compound and just kind of applying them. We have 4 hours, and so my first hour is this. That's what I thought. So I don't know how long it'll take.
You know, when I did it, we had a whole 8 hours, I guess we had.
You did? Yes. And, I know. I was so excited last year, and then it was the first thing canceled out of my whole sort of summer of art. And I know for everybody, all the artists, it was so sad, you know.
Yeah.
You look forward to it, and it didn't really rebound until now, which is great. People are able to do this. And I don't know all the artists on here. They're all doing different things. I'm not sure. Sewing? I see sewing. That's awesome.
I watched a little bit of the first
Is that
group.
Claire? Yes.
That is me.
Oh, that's awesome. I love everybody's doing a lot of different mediums, you know?
Well, and that's really important when they put the whole thing together to get that variety for sure.
Yeah.
But
what did you work on? What did you make?
I did some acrylic paintings on, but what I did was I textured the canvas, and I did a practice session the week before.
Yeah.
And I found that if I tried doing the texturing there, it didn't dry fast enough. So I had to bring 2 textured canvases with me to work on.
Well, I was worried about this, and I kind of did a little test board one day, and I thought, well, I think I can, accomplish that in an hour or whatever.
Well, and that's good.
If the weather cooperated.
It definitely gave me some impetus to do it, and I did one, 20 by 20 canvas and then two 12 by 12s because I knew I'd have the time. And I usually often will work on 3 things at once, waiting for something to dry.
During that day, you worked on that many pieces?
Did 3 pieces on that.
Oh wow!
And I thought I might get tired. No, I was totally stimulated by the crowd.
Yeah.
And that just having people bother me was actually good.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, what I did was I asked the first person who came, which happened to be parents and a little girl, for a title and like 5 colors, 3 to 5 colors.
Oh.
And this little girl gave me 3 titles and a different set of colors for each one, and that's what I did.
Oh.
I did her concept.
That's cool.
And it was just, and then her parents eventually bought one of the 3 pieces.
Oh wow!
But it was just, I thought, wow, I would do this every week if I could.
I often think over, because I got a lot of stuff at the idea store at Puddicombe, and I always think, they need to have just like little pop-up artists there making things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I think a lot of people don't know that they could make things out of some of that, you know.
Yeah.
I walk around and I try to think of a couple ideas for everything.
So maybe 7, 8 years ago, I did a show that was totally recycled, and there were like 5 or 6 different artists, but we didn't do anything live at the space. But do you know Cindy Sampson?
Yes.
Yeah, Cindy was one of them.
Love her.
And she does a lot of work with recycled pieces.
Yes.
And so I just thought, well, all right, I'll try it and see what I come up with. And I really enjoyed that process too. But you really have to spend a lot of time finding things.
Yeah. I thought about this for quite a while. The first thing I saw, I found this. My husband works at U-Haul, and I pulled in one day and I said, well, that's something I can work with. And I had no idea what I was going to make.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this chair around the corner, sat on it, meaning like I didn't go get it or didn't pick it up. And I literally just woke up one morning. It was like 5 a.m. I'm like, you have to go get that dumb chair. And so then it just became like the ox face. Like as soon as I picked it up, I was like, oh, it's an ox face. Anyway, so that's where
that's
the
great.
idea came from.
That is amazing.
I didn't know what I was going to do because I'm not doing the same project I was going to do last year. So.
That reminds me of Maflaka.
Huh?
He's a composer. Every morning he would go out and walk and listen to the sounds he heard and put it in a piece.
Ah.
That's great. It's good to get your inspirations from lots of different places.
Well, Jeffrey here works at Japan House. He's a student still, but works with me over at Japan House and is a music major. For him, he's graduating.
So I assume you guys know Mark Anthony, who doesn't work there anymore, but he used to work at Japan House, I know.
Who's that?
Mark Anthony?
Not right now, yeah.
Yeah.
We really haven't had any opportunities. Jeffrey's doing video editing with me, and kind of a lot of other behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah, I've done a couple of different shows with Mark. He's certainly inspired and can do like 8 or 10 things in a day.
I'm telling you, I am always amazed by Mark Anthony. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we have sound? I don't know if we're on.
We do.
Okay. That's sound.
Yes, you are on audio, and it is time in the show, I think, for all of the artists to do some introductions, since we have a good amount of people watching right now. So I think we'll go around and just do artist introductions. If we could start with Jihee, that would be great. And then you can all just introduce yourselves, just talk about maybe how you got into art and your background. So we'd really be curious to hear about that.
All right. My name is Jihee, and I got my BFA at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. And my work is about feelings that people feel while living in a foreign country, such as otherness, longing, nostalgia, pleasure, and struggle. I do large portraits, and I use acrylic paint, oil pastels, yarn, and styrofoam. And after I graduated, I've been having shows and I've been on artist residency in Korea, and yeah, I have an online class on mixed media art, and today I'm gonna paint my son as a symbol of reconnection between me and my family back home. I've been living apart from my family for 8 years. Physical distance created emotional distance, so I felt like I'm an outsider and I longed for my family. So my previous works are about disconnection, distance, and longing for my family. However, after I had my son, distance between me and my family got closer. We text and call more to talk about my son and how I feel about my son. So I started to understand my parents better as I become a parent. And so my son changed our relationship. So I wanted to celebrate our reconnected relationship by painting my son. Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing, Jihee. That was really insightful. We're really excited to see your final piece of your son.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And then I guess Claire, if you want to go next.
Sure. So I did not get a BFA. I didn't study art. I did end up studying it as a minor. But I studied advertising. And then when I was about to graduate, I basically and I think it's been personally for me, like I'm very privileged to have been able to make quarantine one of the best times of my life, because I've just been like stuck inside making art, and now I've gotten to the point where I can do art. It's like one of the most random, like luckiest things that's happened to me. So I got kind of time to catch up on things that I wouldn't, or that I didn't have time to do when I wasn't like getting a BFA. So most of my art it's done in textiles, so fabric, tufting, which is like rug making, are like my two main media that I sometimes but a lot of my work is
Stop by later and see the progress.
quilts and things that are
Enjoy the beautiful day.
like in our kind of family culture, and things that are close to us, because I kind of consider myself an outsider artist, not having studied it, or being brought up in the community. And so I want to like really try to make my art relatable for all audiences, not just people who have been trained to understand art.
Wow, awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, we've all seen your rug designs online, and they're so cool. So that's really great that you're pursuing art, and it's really inspiring for many people, Claire. So thank you. And then, yes. And then I guess, Nikki, if you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I'm Nikki. I graduated from University of Illinois in 2020 with a major in art education and a minor in art history. Basically, right when quarantine hit, I decided to turn my old childhood bedroom into a studio. So that's where I've been for the past year. And along with painting, I've been working at a farm in Elburn. So when I'm not painting at night, my days are spent with 800 chickens, 50 goats about. So I've made a lot of non-human friends. Other than that, my work is about queer identities and female presenting bodies and their relationship to culture and audience. I grew up 14 years at Catholic school before I realized that I was gay. And so really a lot of my work has to do with sort of this tension I feel between growing up Catholic and what that means for me today as a queer woman, And today my work will be a self-portrait, sort of talking about self-proclaimed joy and its fragility, and yeah, so that's a little bit about me, and that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikki. And then finally, Michael.
Yes.
Do you want to introduce yourself? Hi.
Hi there. My name is Michael Darin. I'm a local artist. I really love making things. That's one of the things it's hard to describe what I like to do. Recently, I've been working a lot in found object art or assemblage art. So this piece is inspired by, I first found this awesome palette, and I had no idea what I was going to do with that. And then I was walking around my neighborhood, and there's always people throwing out stuff. And I found this old broken chair, and for some reason the base of it looked like a cow's head or an ox head. And so that gave me the whole inspiration for what I'm working on today, which is a piece called OX21. And so I'm going to be creating an ox out of a bunch of found material. I love going and looking around, nosing around, like Paca in town, and kind of finding things that don't normally have repurposed things. And so yeah, that's about me. I work at Japan House over at the University of Illinois, so I love nature. That's why I'm kind of outside today. I thought it would be fun to be out here, and if anybody wants to stop by, I guess I have a couple of neighbors right here now. So yeah, I just love being part of this group. I was really sad last year when I wasn't able to be, when we canceled. And so when they called and they said, do you want to do this again? It was really inspirational and gave me a lot of hope for this year, so we can get together and do art again. So yeah, that's about me.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, we're so excited that you could come back this year, even though it's virtual. We're really happy to have you. And it's a beautiful day outside, so perfect setup outside.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, artists, for all introducing yourselves. And this is just a reminder for all the artists, if you're not talking to each other or the audience, like if you don't want to be heard, and like you don't have something to say, maybe if you could keep yourself muted, that would be easiest from our standpoint technically. And we will facilitate the conversation. So if you're able to, on the YouTube live stream, if you have any questions, we would love to hear them. And we actually already have a question from Ben for Claire. And his question is, what techniques do you use to try to make your art relatable to non-artists?
That's a very good question. We're starting out with a tough one. I think a lot of it is about finding things that I know that a lot of people have seen. So like obviously cartoon references, and then references to just like certain like ways that you would draw an eye in a cartoon kind of style. Just things that are like vaguely familiar. I'm not trying to like copy anything or be like, this is like a Mickey Mouse tapestry. It's more about like finding things that just people might have seen and they don't know where, and kind of like giving you a feeling of familiarity. And then I also use like pretty traditional quilting techniques to get that effect. Yeah, so those are some of my main tools. But yeah, a lot of it is about line art and comic art. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you. We actually have another question for Nikki, and this question says, what is working on a farm like? Does it influence your artwork at all?
Good question. Yes. Okay, how do I want to start this? Working on a farm is very interesting. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago. I really had no experience on a farm. And one day on my birthday, last May, we were in quarantine, and my sister just moved out to Batavia at the time. So my mom's like, oh, let's go to a farm for your birthday. That my sister like told us to go to. Sorry, my family's all laughing in the background. So So we went to this farm and I really liked it. So honestly, a day after going, I really enjoy being around nature and animals. And it's also run by 2 married gay men. And so that was really appealing to me because I hadn't really seen a farm where there was a lot of queer representation, especially, I don't know, there's a lot of stigma around farms. So I wanted to see how that worked and I wanted to be a part of that community. And so I emailed him and I got the job. And as for my artwork, I don't know if it has had an effect on my physical work, but mentally it's really taught me a lot of discipline. I would work 8 to 12-hour days on the farm, doing complete manual labor. So I would have to come home and really discipline myself at like 8 or 9 at night to work to a certain point in the night and then get up and do my farm life over again. So definitely setting boundaries for myself on when to work, deadlines for myself, and yeah. And also I think being outside all day, especially during quarantine, has helped me just get a better perspective on life and not be so cooped up in my studio all day. It really forced me to go out and meet customers and be with nature. So.
Awesome, thank you. I actually have a question for all of the artists, so you guys can just take it as you want. But I have a question about how you know when your art is done, and what is the longest it's ever taken you to complete a piece, or do you still have pieces from a while ago that you are never sure when they're going to be complete? How does that process kind of look for you in completing your works of art?
I can talk first on this subject. I personally, what was really hard for me, so before I graduated, I never really thought about having to stop doing work when I didn't have deadlines. So when I graduated from college and started making work on my own, it was really hard to sort of determine when I could stop working on something, because if I didn't tell myself to stop, I could probably work on a piece for years. But the longest I've ever worked on a piece was probably my most recent piece before doing this, and that took me like 3 months. It's a big piece. It's like 7 feet by 5 feet. So yeah, that's the longest I've ever worked on one.
Okay, so are you done? I'm sorry, I was kind of listening, not listening here. I was gonna say, yeah, how do you know when you're done? I usually have some sort of vision, but I really don't ever know that it's done. A lot of times I'll stand back and come back to it, and when I usually feel like it's done is when I show it to other people. And so that's kind of like when I feel like it's done. So if I feel, I kind of show people along the way, but then just to kind of, show people in general and be like, this is a finished product. And I literally one time had a painting that I started and then like 5 years later I finished. So that's kind of the longest time I've ever gone on something. Usually I start and finish, not quite in 4 hours like today though, but yeah.
For me, I always trouble with stopping working. I feel like I should have stopped before, so that was my problem when I went to college, and I think I've always overworking, but now so that's very hard to say when when my work is gonna finished. But I imagine that if I do more, it's gonna be bad. Then I will stop at the point.
I definitely agree with Michael's mentality there about just thinking, when I look at a piece, would I show this to people as a finished piece, or do I feel like it's not yet an accurate representation of what I'm trying to show? And then, yeah, a lot of times things will just sit for a really long time because I feel like I need to add something on. And I think maybe the longest I've taken has been like 3 or 4 months that it took me to make a tufted shore coat. There were just like a lot of snags in the project and like getting it to work, so that one took a long time.
Okay, we have a really thought-provoking question from one of our members in our committee. She asks, this might be a deep question, but how do you draw the line between art as a work and art as a passion? Do you think they must be treated separately, or are they the same?
I can go for this one. I think when it's work, you're not enjoying it very much, or it's not necessarily something that you would make unprovoked. So yeah, but otherwise, I hardly ever feel like I'm doing work because I'm usually doing what I want. Even though like I'm using it to make a living, I don't really feel like I'm working. It's that whole like thing where if you do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that is really true for art, unless you're kind of working like, often on commission.
Sort of going off of that, I feel like too, what was I gonna say? I feel like when your art is, I feel like when you're working on art, there's always gonna be times where it's gonna feel like work. Like I feel like if you're just like starting to do art and you feel like it's always gonna be sunshine and rainbows, you need to like switch your perspective. I feel like there are times where it seems more like work to me, and less like play, and there's other times where I forget, let's say I'm doing a commission, I forget that I'm even making, I'm doing this for money or doing it as a job. I think there are moments where like it feels more one way or the other, passion versus work. But I think if you go into making your artwork sort of as a lifestyle, you just have to like keep finding a balance between the two. And if it starts to feel constantly more like work rather than a passion, that's something that's worth sort of looking into, and if you want to keep going with that and whatnot.
I think to me, art is more about passion because I'm an artist, but also I'm a mom. My son is 1 year old now, so I have to take care about him during the day. And the only time that I can paint is after he's sleeping. So I work at night at home. So I think if I don't have any passion about art, I think I couldn't do that. So yeah, for me, I think it's more it's more passion.
I actually have another question. This is something that I asked the first group of artists, and I found their answers really inspiring. So I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. How do you guys think that the past year and this whole pandemic and has impacted your art in both good ways and bad, and more specifically, just your creative process? Because I'm sure there have been a lot of ways that the whole isolation and what this has caused changed your art and the way you go about creating it.
For me, one of the best things that happened was the Great Art Doors, which was a program that was through the park districts and then Spurlock and I forget who else. I think that was it. But anyway, it really gave a lot of artists, opportunity to come up with something. We thought everything was completely canceled. And it was really interesting how I think art in general, you know, I didn't hear a lot of whining from artists. I just saw a lot of creativity. And so I think for the arts in general, I think it was really great because we didn't have the outlets. We didn't have the shows. We didn't have the performance theaters. We didn't have the, you know, all of those things. And yet people weren't really complaining. They were just finding ways to get it out there. And so to me, that was like the best part. And like being able to do this online today. Yeah, and so I think my art has just kind of been, you know, it has been kind of quiet because we haven't had a lot of opportunities, but, you know, the ideas are, for me, change like this is kind of a hopeful piece. The ox is a resilient animal, and the whole idea of ox and the year 2021, it's like an animal that's kind of humble, but yet that it looks at its resources and thinks, you know, it adds value to everyday items and just, you know, right now I'm kind of honoring things that had an old life that would be thrown away, but now they have a new life. So it's kind of changed my art a little bit in that way. And then, like I said, the Great Outdoors, which is such a great program.
Yeah, the amount of virtual shows that I've seen and just like things that would have been taking place in a gallery across the country or across the world that are just like online now is actually so positive. Like you would expect, because people are so lonely and like depressed, for art to sort of be swaying in that direction, but I think for a lot of people have just gotten like way more into sharing their work online, and like it still makes people really happy. And then there's also just like the fact that we all do have to stay inside, and you do just like have to sit down and do your work. And personally, that's been really good for me. Just like there's nothing else to do. There's nothing else that I would be doing besides my work, which also makes me feel really good about just like spending 12 hours a day working in here, because I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. So I don't have any like regrets about how much time I spend on my work.
Sort of going off of that too, I feel like now that the world's opening up again, I sort of have to be more firm with myself with like, do I stay in and make work, or do I go out and hang out with people, or this, that, and the other. But also during this time, it's given me a lot of self-reflection moments. I feel like being in my studio for as long as this pandemic allowed me to be has changed my spirit and has changed my mind in a lot of ways that wouldn't have been, a lot of opportunities that wouldn't have been there if this pandemic didn't hit. So I'm very grateful for that. And I think that even if I can't see it yet, or I don't know it yet, I think that my new spiritual growth and my new kind of mental outlook on the world is going to become more apparent in my work as I continue. Because I even like thinking about my ideas I had right when I got home last year, when the pandemic hit, versus sort of what I'm thinking about now has changed so much. And I don't know if that would have happened if I hadn't had this time to really self-reflect and spend a lot of time with myself and what matters to me.
I usually use pictures of family trip as a reference, but I could meet my family after a pandemic, so that might affect my work. but also there are so many virtual art events going on, and I participated one virtual show, and good thing is I can have a documented show, so that's a good thing to me.
We have a question from the live stream for Claire. It says, do you have a favorite piece you like to make, more specifically pieces to wear or pieces for decor?
I prefer making pieces to wear. I feel like I haven't, it's like I always am making these ridiculous things when I'm making something to wear. I'm making like a ginormous hat that's just like not something that I would just go wear out in public. But yeah, I definitely think that's something like deeply ingrained in my art practice, is also like wearable pieces or things that look like they would be wearable but aren't necessarily. Yeah, that's something that I have been thinking about a lot lately in terms of like directions I'll go in with my art. Yeah, I do prefer making things to wear. Thank you for asking.
We also have another question for all the artists. It says, how did you guys get started on creating art like you do right now? So I know you kind of introduced yourselves at the beginning, but you could kind of talk a little bit more about your creative process and how you guys got started in art, or just how you begin an art piece in general. Talking a little bit about it, if you'd like.
I'll talk about this one. My dad got me very into comics and sewing when I was really little. He taught me how to sew and like showed me books of people that would like sew little, like there were like adults who were sewing like art toys, and he like bought these books for me to look at, and I would just like sew my own toys and like little creatures that I had imagined. And he was like a comic artist on the side, like as a fun thing to do. And so I would draw with him a lot when he was working on something. So then it was just always like, even though I didn't end up studying art, it was always something that I was doing just naturally, because like I sort of got raised that way. And now it feels the same. It's just like I have a compulsion to make a certain thing. I have like a million projects in my head, and I'll just like suddenly feel very motivated to make one of them. And I think that's just like naturally the way that I've been. It's not necessarily something I had to work to develop. It's more like working to channel that energy in a purposeful way.
For me, I feel like I knew I wanted to go into art from a really young age. No one in my family really is an artist. My cousin Megan, she's an artist, but besides that, no one really had any artistic talent. But as a kid, I doodled so much in all of my notebooks, and when I was supposed to be paying attention in class, that by the time I got to high school, when my parents would go into student-teacher conferences, all of my teachers would be like, yeah, she's doing fine, but look what she keeps drawing on her homework. And like, I wasn't good at math and science, so my math and science teachers especially were like, she's not super strong in this, but look what she can do here. So I think it wasn't until high school that I realized that this was something I seriously wanted to pursue. And yeah.
I studied graphic design in college, and I think that really helped me a lot, just with the basics theory of design and color. I think those really help because you go through a design and a drawing basic class. I think that really helped me. I'm usually inspired by something or somebody. Like this event was inspired me. People sometimes inspire me, so I make gifts for people or I do things for shows. But yeah, I like really experimenting with different things a lot. I paint, I make things, and then I'll go and I see Claire sewing. I just finished a quilt. So I really like doing different things, and I get a lot of inspiration. Also at the idea store in town, I'll just go there and literally I'll see something and it just gives me an idea to make something. And so that's where I get a lot of my inspiration. My parents really weren't all that artistic, but my dad was, I grew up on a farm, so he really showed me how to make things, and he showed me how to kind of construct and, really just use hand tools and, all of that. So that's been something my whole life. But that I think that anybody, any artist should learn how to use all the hand tools, and then also all the different fine tools, like the skill of sewing, and also, welding is a great thing. I just had a friend stop by who does welding, and that changes things when you can make big art like that. So yeah, just experiment with different tools mostly.
For me, I wanted to study art when I was a kid, but I decided to study business in college because that might be easier to get a job. So I graduated with a business degree in Korea, and then I had a chance to come to the US. So I decided to study art here because that's what I was really wanting to do. And I really had good time studying art here.
Going back to that, it's interesting too, because I feel like for me, and like for a lot of people, I don't know, my experience was that when I was younger, it started off just as something that, like, I guess I was good at, that was noticeable to people, but it wasn't really until I was probably even in my sophomore year of college that I actually became really serious with what I was doing and sort of the topics I wanted to talk about. So it's been interesting to look back and see how that's developed even within college, and how it took me until halfway through college to sort of get my footing on where my path was going to go, or where I wanted it to go. And it took me that long to become serious in what I wanted to do.
It's same for me. Like I really wanted to study art, and then I actually studied art here, and that was a little bit different than I imagined. So I had trouble with what really I wanna paint, what I really wanna express through the art. But finally, I found the theme, and I finally found what I wanted to do. Yeah.
And believe it or not, you guys have been creating art for about an hour now. Maybe it feels longer, maybe it feels shorter, but yeah, so you still have 3 more hours. So yeah, take with that as you will. And now we have a question from Michael. It says, do you like to work with wood the most?
There are so many things made out of wood. Yeah, probably I really do. There's a lot of energy in wood also. I don't know why. I don't really do a lot of construction like tables and chairs and things like that, but I do tend to do some things with wood. Yeah. I'm fascinated at the hardware store, all the different pre-cut lumber. I think that that's really a good thing now. You can go and get lumber cut, in like 36 inches, where I remember you used to have to, buy a huge piece of plywood or Now you can really, they've really kind of customized the wood in a lot of the hardware stores for, I think, crafting people and for people with cars. And so, yeah, I love using power tools. So circular saws are fun. I was actually thinking about doing some cutting in this wood with maybe some round, I have a round drill. And so I think I do like wood a lot because you can manipulate it and you can paint it, you can leave it natural. Yeah, so I do for sure.
Another question, kind of related to the one before, but how are there any restrictions due to the mediums that you frequently use, and how do these restrictions play into the piece that you end up making? That question is for anyone, by the way.
Somebody earlier on the earlier broadcast, I can't remember who it was. It might have been Kofi was talking about, or Keenan was talking about like economics and how sometimes I think that that can play into art. You know, if you don't have a lot of money to spend on materials, you know, you have to be inventive of what you use or where you source materials. And so one of them I think was talking about kind of going a little bit more digital because it was a little bit, you know, their investment was in the digital platform, but they could create a lot more art and not have to go back and buy those raw resources. And so I think definitely your limitation sometimes could be that. I like problem solving, and so I think limitations could be how far can you push certain materials. I'm working on a piece right now which is going to have to be outside for 6 months, and I really wanted to have kind of like a soft look, but how can it be weather resistant and also be outside for that long? So I think problem solving and kind of push materials, play with them, see what you can do, just experiment, and if you mess up, that's fine.
We have a question from chat for Nikki, and it says, are you creating this all off the top of your head, or do you have a template in mind?
I actually, for all of my paintings, I use reference photos. My process is a little funky, where I kind of like visualize a blank canvas in my head, and then I place things on it, and I'll like subtract things and then re-put things on it in my head until I get an image that I'm satisfied with. And then from that image, I'll try my best. So like this picture, for instance, I had this image of like a dark room and I'm blowing up balloons, and I want to add a fire in the background, a Bible on fire. And so I kind of have to try my best to remake that. So I was with my girlfriend and she was like taking pictures of me and just like in her living room. So I'm going off of a picture of me sitting in her living room and I'm trying to create it into this piece in my head. So that's always sort of an issue or like something I have to counteract. Like with a lot of my paintings, there's nature scenes, and maybe the figure is a photo reference, but I have to make up the entire background. And so this, I actually, I don't think you can see it, but I didn't want to put any paint on before the show, so I lightly sort of did an outline of my reference photo, and that's what I'm working from now. But the background is going to be completely from my imagination. And even then, like the lighting on the photo isn't perfect. So I kind of have to, depending on, I'm thinking I want a dark background, but there's going to be a fire. So I have to make up some shadows and whatnot. But yeah, all of my reference photos are from just like an image in my head that I came up with on an imaginary blank canvas. And I just arrange things in my head until I find something that I'm satisfied with. Oh, and adding to that, I have a love-hate relationship with sketching. So I usually don't sketch after I've like thought of an idea. I'll take a lot of reference pictures as fast as I can in case I lose that image in my head. But if you look at my sketchbook, it's kind of funny. It's atrocious, the images that I come up with for paintings for some reason. I have a really hard time sketching what I see in my head. So it usually just goes from my head right onto canvas.
We also have another question kind of similar to one that I asked before. And so this is for all the artists, whoever wants to answer. How do you tell when a piece is finished, whether it's this piece or any of your other pieces? I know we mentioned that earlier, but some people just coming in asked that question.
Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry, I forgot it already.
No, it's okay. I don't think I could paint and pay attention to the question, so it's impressive you guys can do both. But it was just similar to the question before of how you know when a piece is finished.
I'll just go ahead and say kind of what I said earlier, is that it's been harder now that I'm outside of school. In school, it was sort of easy. I really tend to work up until the last second for deadlines, especially when I was in undergrad. So now it's a little more difficult for me to figure it out. I have to make mental deadlines for myself now. So I tell myself, like, okay, in a month and 3 days on this day, I have to have this piece done. Because if I don't have those deadlines for myself, not only would I work past it, which I've even done with those strict deadlines I think I've put for myself, but I won't. I have a hard time really working on it if I don't sort of give myself realistic goals, or else I'll freeze up and I just won't work.
Jihee, we have a question for you from YouTube. It says, do you always sketch out an outline like it looks like you did today, or do you ever paint freehand?
I usually sketch out an outline because I find it this way easier to focus on color and paint. And yeah, so I prefer this way.
This is a question for Claire from YouTube. You touched upon earlier how when you were getting inspired in art, you were a lot of the time inspired by dolls and toys. So have you ever sewed something like that yourself?
Yes. I want to see if I have an example of anything. I just sold one, so I don't have it on me. I think that the things that I make are more like if you like go into my Instagram, which is just my full name, they're like more three-dimensional things that I do with crochet. And then I have sewn things in the past, but they're a little bit less like toys. When I crochet something, it's like usually it's like a big creature, and then when I sew something, it's more of trying to like make a picture three-dimensional or two-dimensional, which is what I'm doing today. Sorry, I have to plug in my computer. Yeah, I guess it's a hard question to answer. It's a hard question to answer without an example handy. And like the things that I've made take up a lot of space, so I didn't bring them to my apartment, unfortunately. But yeah, you can see them in my portfolio.
We have another really interesting question from YouTube, and it says, if it were no longer possible for you to be an artist, where would your creative energy be placed instead?
I think for me, it would be gardening. I wish I could say cooking, but I hate cooking. So I'm also really bad with plants, but I think that maybe I get better at them if I wasn't spending so much time doing this. Yeah, that's it for me.
I agree with whoever said that. I would just do total gardening all the time. I think that's creative. I walk around my neighborhood a lot picking up garbage, so I find that fascinating. I'd probably just do that if I didn't have to do anything else. Just clean up, help organize, stuff like that. I don't know what else I'd do.
I would, since I got my undergrad, my major was art education. I don't know if it's cheating to say I would be an art teacher. If it can't be anything art related, I would be some sort of teacher. I really like English and history as well. And I think you can put a lot of creative influence into your classroom, into your teaching style. I really like helping people and I think that would give me sort of a creative way to connect to students and help them learn. And if it wasn't in art, it would be in one of those other subjects.
For me, it's gonna be interior. I'm not sure it is also art or not, but I really like to go to antique shop and looking around. And see some interior objects.
Another question for all the artists. What age did you start making art, and when did you know you wanted to pursue it as a career?
I recently found a little notebook that I think I had made in preschool, and one of the questions was, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I wrote an artist. I had no idea that is how long I've wanted to do this for, but I guess 5-year-old me thinks so. So that's what I got from that.
I actually was introduced to art at a very young age from my grandma, who was kind of a crafter and had been through the Depression and everything. She kind of taught me how to make something out of nothing. But then I went to Monticello school district here close to Champaign-Urbana, and I had a wonderful art teacher named Mr. Mula. Actually, I had a wonderful art teacher in grade school, Mrs. Shepard, and then this old Italian guy named Mr. Mula at Monticello High School. And probably a lot of my friends, if anybody's watching, they know who I'm talking about. But he was so inspirational. He just told you to go for it. He'd been through the war. He was a veteran, and of course had multicultural background. And so he really introduced us, even though we're in a small town, to a lot of different art, and even modern art at the time. And we thought it was crazy, but he was really passionate about teaching kids how to be good artists. Even if you said you weren't a good artist, he really created a lot of good artists. Mr. Mula, did you ever have him? You never did art? He was like one of my favorites. Probably one of my favorite people. If I recall correctly.
I didn't realize I wanted to be an artist probably until high school, and I had no idea what direction I wanted to take my art career in, but I just knew like I needed to keep painting and drawing and like exploring that creative side. But I feel like I've like since I was a little kid, and I kind of said this earlier, like I've just been drawing on anything I could get my hands on at any time. So even if I didn't know it when I was really young, I feel like my family or like my teachers saw it in me sort of before I did, and then I caught up in high school and college.
For me, I started studying art. I started draw like 5 years old, and I remember that I drew a self-portrait, and in the self-portrait, I was sitting on the stool and in the woods with animals, and I was drawing animals around me.
Thank you all for sharing. We do have a following question. I think this, personally as an artist as well, this might be a hard one, but do you ever reach a point where you feel that your art piece is perfect?
No. I don't think I've ever reached that point with a piece. If anything, I lean on the side of being extremely hard on my work and on myself. I think people always tell me that they know, like before I show a piece to them, they know it's good if I say it's okay. So I think for me personally, I can see room for improvement in all of my pieces, but I think that's also brought me to a level of acceptance of work that's imperfect. And I think I want to actually get more towards an area of working with what I think is imperfect work, because I think that'll bring me to a better state of more interesting work. So I don't know, perfect's a hard definition, and it's a hard word to define, and I think it depends on the artist of what perfect means for their work.
All right, Claire, we have a question for you in the chat. Someone asked if you have a preferred fabric to sew with.
Cotton, for sure. It's so simple to sew with cotton, but it's also really easy to dye it and manipulate it because cotton stretches really well. Like if you break in your jeans, it's not like really stretchy like jersey, but if you feel like something's just like a little bit off, you can kind of like pull on it and get it to look perfect if you really need to. So yeah, I mostly everything is cotton.
Have you ever used natural dyes? Because I know like the only thing I know is avocado peels. I heard they made like a beautiful purple dye, but
yeah, I don't think I've ever used a natural dye. Now that I think about it, I've used food dye to dye wool, because food dye works really well for like animal fibers, and I use a synthetic like fiber reactive dye to dye cotton, so that's like good for silk and hemp and cotton and all those like if you want to know the brands I can tell you. No, I've never used a natural dye. I'm always just afraid that like the color won't be brilliant enough, and I really like to use bright colors, so that's why I'm not really natural dyeing. Oh, I will say that I dyed this piece of fabric that I'm working on right now. And this is with Procyon dye. If you just look up like Jacquard Procyon fiber reactive dye, that's what it is. And it's made up of CMYK particles, so cyan, magenta, yellow, and black colors. So when you can like mix it into like a bath and have it all come out one color to dye the fabric, or you can dye it by like wetting the fabric and then spraying this like dust onto it, and so it kind of has this effect of like, I don't know how good my camera is, but it kind of gets like a little bit tie-dye looking, but it's all still the same color, but then you can see like the little dots of yellow and blue. And then sometimes it'll just like randomly mix and create a new color on the fabric. So that's like the primary way that I've been manipulating my fabric recently.
Michael, we have a question for you. How do you affix your objects onto the canvas, especially such heavy objects? And how do you decide where to place them and in the direction? Because I see some things are upside down.
This was a question for me. I'm sorry, I was talking to people. Yeah.
Oh, good.
How do I attach it? Right now I'm attaching everything with screws today because of the weight of the objects. And so it really depends. I am going to be working with a little bit of plastic. So when you get to stuff like that, you can use, you know, I've used things even like I have this huge collection of twist ties. I save twist ties off of everything, baggies and stuff. But anyway, yeah, so it really depends on the weight of the items. Today I happen to, like I said, it's going to be very heavy. So everything has to have a very secure, so it's either being bolted or screwed on. And then also with wood, somebody asked earlier, do I like to work with wood? And one of the things you have to know with wood is a lot of times you have to take that second step or that extra step of drilling a hole, or you're going to have splitting. And so if you really want to kind of up your wood game or your woodworking, just remember to always kind of like drill a pilot hole. Or this is like my best friend. I love an awl. I have like 12 of these, but like I love an awl. I can poke holes in anything with this thing. Anyway, so you'll see me kind of punch holes in this metal here in a minute with it. But yeah, definitely with heaviness. And then the back of this has quite a heavy piece of industrial kind of rope. It's a twisted rope with some hooks, like, let's see here, with some eye hooks that are like this size. And so I don't know where my camera is. Yeah. So it's pretty heavy, and I drilled those in too, you know, instead of just screwing them in. Did that answer the question, hopefully?
Yes, perfect. Thank you for sharing.
I don't know. I've never done this. I've never hosted a program. Although one of my favorites when I had my flower shop, I would go and do flower and like plant demonstrations for people. And do you know who the Red Hats are? Yeah. Have you ever heard of those crazy ladies? Oh my God. They were fun. Everybody else would just kind of sit there and you're like, you know, don't worry, it's plants. Like if you mess up, it's a plant, for God's sake. I just wanted to be part of it. Wear a red hat.
I went with my mom to one, and she wore a pink hat because she wasn't.
You weren't officially in a red hat?
And I never went there. 8 at the time, and we got back to the car, and I was like, I can't wait to be a red hat.
I know, aren't they festive? I mean, they make outfits out of the red hat. I had to do it myself, Jeffrey.
This is a question for all of the artists. Are there any certain artists that inspire you, like famous artists, or any just certain genres of art that you're particularly inspired by, and why?
For me, I am really drawn to like grotesque, macabre, and sort of like darker work. So for me, artists that I'm really influenced by, a lot of older artists, so Francisco Goya, Zlitslaw Beksinski, Hieronymus Bosch was like my favorite from a very young age. And then other artists such as Rene Magritte, his surrealism. He was like the first artist I really sort of became like obsessed with early high school. Lucian Freud, Jenny Saville or Seville, I still don't know how to pronounce her last name, are all artists whose work really informs my thinking and my painting style.
I'll name a couple artists. One in particular, Magdalena Suarez from Kiss. She's a ceramicist, but she's also like a painter, and she paints on ceramics. And she takes a lot of inspiration from pop culture, and like has stated in her work that part of her work is like images that are relatable to people from every socioeconomic class. So she does use a lot of like Popeye and Mickey Mouse and stuff in her work, and I think that's really cool. I really resonate with the idea of relatability that she has and like access. But I'll also go and say that I really like Alexander Gerard. I think he's a little bit more of an interior designer, but I don't know, he kind of does everything. And I just really like, he has like very clear shapes and colors, and I don't think that he ever tried to like dull down his instinct, because he would get hired to do like, what's that airline, Braniff, that's not, I don't think it exists anymore, but he got hired to like design everything, like their uniforms and their logo, everything, and it was all very like distinctly his style still, which is very cool because that's just like a very corporate thing, but yeah, so people were definitely hiring him for that, obviously. Yeah, those are just two really big ones that I think about a lot.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. Jihee or Michael, do you have any artists who you're particularly inspired by, or just any genres of art that inspire you?
Yeah, I could talk. You know, it's interesting. I think my art, sort of what I really like in art has changed over the years, and I think that's because I've been able to go to see more art in person and live. And one of the artists that, you know, I sort of grew up with, the contemporary, was Andy Warhol. And you always saw the artwork, and you always kind of, I don't know, I love pop art, or I thought I loved pop art, and I, you know, just kind of thought, okay, you know, Andy Warhol. And I happened to be in Pittsburgh and went to his museum. And, you know, when you go and you can really see the breadth of an artist, and you sort of see how it started and you know, where it ended, that sort of thing. I'm really inspired by that. So he's somebody. I'm really fascinated by the artist Christo, who covered things and with fabric. I don't know if anybody remembers that. He would, and his wife actually, would cover islands and pink fabric, and they were just fascinated with creating beautiful outdoor sort of space and color and experience. I love experience art, and so most of my art has to do with kind of like a feeling, or you kind of experience it. So I'd say he's a really big person. And then I love all the classic artists. I've been to Italy one time, and just seeing all the beautiful paintings, all the Renaissance and that sort of paintings. But really, pop art to me right now is really exciting. I love modern art, but you have to get used to it. I think if you see it in person, it makes a big difference. And probably my favorite artist of all time is Van Gogh. That's probably my absolute favorite. But I've been to his museum too, so anyway. Anybody ever been there? Yes.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, for me, I really like Wayne Thibault. I really enjoy mixing colors and put different colors, and I think Wayne Thibault is a master of color, and I really like his images, like desert and very nostalgic images. So I really enjoyed watching his paintings. And then also I like Norman Rockwell. I'm reading a book of Norman Rockwell, and I really like how he wants to be closer to public, people, not art critics, and he wants to want his painting to be read to public without any interpretation of his art. So I really admire that aspect.
All right, artists, we are at our halfway point at 5 p.m. It would be great if you guys can share what phase you're at in your art making process or what you're doing at the moment.
Okay, so I just realized it's been probably pretty hard to see what I'm doing this whole time. But I just finished, basically I'm making an applique quilt, and it's like a pretty small quilt, because 4 hours. And I basically just finished sewing all of the little pieces of it, and now I'm going to like arrange them, glue them to their next piece of fabric, and then sew them on. So that's what's happening over here. Hopefully you can kind of see.
I am, as it may be obvious, I'm working on the hair right now. For a halfway point, I don't really know how well I'm doing in terms of time. I feel like at least I have most of the figure covered, which is nice. But I don't know, I guess we'll see from here how the background goes. Luckily it'll hopefully be sort of simple, but yeah, I guess I'll either keep working on the figure for a little bit more or move on to the background just to get my feet wet there for a little bit.
So I've been doing painting his face, and I put on large areas first, and then I'm going to details now. And yeah, I need to keep working to finish this in 2 hours.
Thank you for sharing. I believe Michael needs to share, but also I would like to emphasize, like, don't feel any pressure to finish your work within these 4 hours. 4 hours is very limited, very small time constraint. We appreciate you guys being here and showing your art making process publicly.
Yeah, thank you. So where I'm at in my art right now is, it seems like I'm taking a long time doing nothing up on the board, but I'm actually working on probably one of the most important parts, which is the face of the ox. And so it just is going to be kind of complicated to put all the things together. So I'm right now working on the eyes. I'm getting ready to add some horns, and then this will actually get mounted up there. And then I kind of start to work a little bit more back up on here. So that's where I'm at. I am about at the halfway point. I'm hopeful. So I think I'm doing good on timing, hopefully. We'll see at the end here.
Hi, Michael. Sorry, we did want to inform you just in case, because we know you are working outside, that it's going to rain potentially at 6 p.m. or like thunderstorm. So we just want to make sure you're okay and your supplies are good. Because the area we're in right now is getting cloudy now. So. Sorry, Michael. I saw that you were speaking. I'm not sure if you were responding to us, but I think you're muted.
Muted?
Oh, no, you're not.
Oh, yes. So I'm doing okay. Thank you. I know you guys are watching the weather. Everything, luckily, minus my computer, I think will be fine. But yeah, we're watching it here too. I can move inside if I need to.
All right, great. This is for questions for all artists if you'd like to answer. How did your art style evolve over time?
For me, I think my style's changed a lot, especially in college. I think I came into college. Well, let me preface with I think my high school art training was very you have to be realistic. You have to draw sort of like the masters. You have to paint like the masters. So I had a really hard time breaking that in college, and it wasn't until probably my junior year that I started to break that idea that all of my work had to be as realistic as possible. And I'm still working on that, but I've definitely evolved more mark making, more color, and sort of using more intuition on how I want a figure to look or a background to look, rather than just going straight off of a picture or what was so traditional for so long is what a painting should look like. So
For me, I painted. I really liked like painterly oil paint, like Monet, like style. But then I changed my style to like mixed media when I was in college senior year. So I used a lot of different medias like yarn, pins, nails, and styrofoams. And now I kind of back to the painterly painting now. So my style is changing, but I'm not sure what's my favorite for now.
bag.
So this is my inspiration here. You kind of got to see it. I guess that would maybe help.
For other artists, do you have a favorite piece that you created?
So for me, I feel like my favorite piece is always whatever the newest thing or the most recent thing that I just made was. Just because I hope and I feel that like every time I make something, it's a little bit closer to what I'm trying to achieve. So, I mean, it's not always, but usually it's the thing that I've just made. So I just started like a new series of little quilts. And like it's maybe not my favorite thing I've ever done, but it definitely feels like I'm getting really close to doing my favorite thing I've ever done. But yeah, so it's always like a game of just like trying to one up the last piece.
My favorite piece I made is the piece that I made for BFA show. It's like 6 foot by 4 foot mixed media piece, and I used foam as a surface, and then I wrapped the foam with the canvas, and I cut it and carved the foam. It just has very rich textures, and I added yarn onto it, and I also made like 12 discs around the piece, and I connected them together with yarn, and I was so satisfied that piece, and I think there were enough time and enough space to make it, and I really was passionate about it. So that piece was done very successfully, and I missed the time and space.
For me, I sort of have a similar answer to Claire. I don't know if I have a favorite piece, but I think that each piece that I create making gets me closer to where I want to go. And I would say within the past year, I've made 2 pieces in particular. One was the one that has been displayed on the social media for Aid to Create, and then one earlier called No Cameraman. I think are my 2 favorites so far because they're the closest to where I want to go and like where my vision is at the moment.
We have a question from Michael. There's a question in chat. Thomas is asking, will your piece be too heavy to hang on the wall, or will it need to rest on the floor?
That is a really good question. I would say it's going to be fairly heavy, and if I do decide to hang it on a wall, I'm going to have to find, you know, a stud or even do 2 nails or 2 anchors. I probably will be, this is a piece that I'm thinking might live outside. Even the paper that I put in the background is kind of like weatherproof because I put the golden kind of like medium on it. So yeah, it's going to be fairly heavy. I'll probably weigh it at the end and just put it on a scale and weigh it and just kind of get an idea of how much I'm trying to work with. But it could maybe sit on the ground, but that wasn't the initial plan. Let's see.
Thank you for sharing. Everyone's work is looking amazing.
Hi artists, your work is looking so amazing. And I just wanted to let you all know that there is only 1 hour left. So I feel like that went by super fast. So the last hour is approaching. We do have one more question as well for everyone if you want to answer. So this is from Andrea. She said, how are you guys able to be so vulnerable and share your art? And then she said, I've never shared my art with anyone due to fear of criticism, judgment, so I really admire you all. So if you'd like to comment on that, I'm sure we'd really appreciate to hear your responses.
I will say that I started sharing my art very gradually, just with like a small group of people, of really close friends, and then like as you get more and more encouragement, it becomes easier to share with bigger audiences. But also I've never done like live, like I've never had like a live broadcasted, like I've never gone on like Instagram Live or anything. So I was very nervous. And also I don't think I talk very often to people who like are watching my art. So this has definitely been a growing experience for me. And yeah, definitely not as scary as I thought it would be to come on here and like talk to a group of people. Even though like whoever is asking questions is anonymous to us. So yeah, it just gets easier over time.
Thanks for sharing that, Claire.
Okay, you good?
Fun. We're having some thunder here, so I'm gonna try to kind of maybe wrap it up. Maybe we'll see how it goes. You know, this is very interesting. It's kind of scary. I don't know about the other artists here, but there's a lot of planning, a lot of last night, waking up in the night, worried. I don't think it's that easy, but I think once you do it, it does get easier. And so if you can put your art out there and have somebody say something and kind of let yourself be vulnerable a couple of times, it does get a little bit easier. And that's all I can say about that. And critiques are great. If you have friends, just have gentle critiques. Just say, hey, let's talk about art. Just go talk about anything. Talk about a poster, talk about anything. You start to talk art language and you just start to critique. Then yourself, you're able to kind of understand what critiques mean and what people are trying to say to you. So that would be my suggestion.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. And Michael, just due to the rain and the weather and everything, if you don't think you'll be able to keep working until 7 because of the weather, that's okay if you can. And if the weather isn't too bad, that's amazing too. But just feel free to explain your work to the audience whenever you want, just in case you need to finish early. But just feel free to do that whenever you're ready or whenever you're finished. I just want to share a nice comment in the chat. Someone says, thank you all the artists to share your works today. We have been enjoying watching your work today and love the diverse style.
Okay, artists, we have 30 minutes left of the live stream. I feel like most of you guys are either done or really close to finishing. Would any artist like to currently talk about their piece?
I can talk a little bit about mine. I don't think I'm gonna finish today. I think I bit off a little more than I could chew. But I want to at least get most of the figure done and the balloons. And hopefully like that whole part can be done, even if like not like the floor isn't done and everything. But I don't really know what else. I think I have to think more about what this piece means to me. I want it to sort of convey a lot of emotion about the solitude that I've felt internally versus the growth that's come out of that from the past year or so, while maintaining my themes of my queer identity, and then I want to add a Bible and it being on fire, and then a dagger somewhere when I do the floor, but sort of talking again about like joy that I feel like I've been forced to feel, and the fragility of like emotion, and like I guess the fleetingness of happiness or joy, and the pressure that we feel to seek it all the time. Yeah, I'll have to think more about it.
Okay. I'm going to talk really quick, and then I'm going to probably start to pull my stuff inside. So I'm probably not done either. I have quite a little bit of detailing I'd like to do up in the horn area. I'm going to be adding a little rat, which is, if you know the story of the ox, rode on the back of the ox to see Buddha, and then jumped off at the last minute and beat the very kind ox to be the first animal of the zodiacs. But anyway, so I feel pretty comfortable about it. I have a little bit of finish up work to do, and definitely want to kind of do a little bit more detailing work, but I feel like I kind of got the essence of the bowl, and everybody's just looking great, by the way. I haven't really been watching. I'm so impressed by everybody else. Anyway, so yep, that's where I am.
I'll talk about that going. I'll talk about mine for a second. I also don't think I'll be done, just because it's a quilt. I have to quilt like the whole surface of it. I do think I'll be done piecing it together. So basically getting the top part done, which is what I wanted. Mine is feeling more and more like it might be a piece of something bigger, which, I mean, that really is what I think quilting is about, is like, or for me, like improvisation and just being able to be flexible with it. So it's telling me some things. I feel like I'll probably listen and make it into a bigger thing. But yeah, I'm excited to show it at the end.
So I think I'm pretty much done with painting, and I was going to glue some yarn onto it, but it seems like the glue that I have isn't working well. So I'm gonna change my plan, and I think I'm gonna use oil pastel for a background a little bit. And I said this when I started, but I'm gonna repeat this because I prepared this. So I'm gonna say about this work. So I painted my son as a symbol of reconnection between me and my family back home. I've been living apart from my family for 8 years. Physical distance created emotional distance. I felt like I'm an outsider and I long for my family. So my previous works are about disconnection, distance, and longing for my family. However, after I had my son, distance between me and my family got closer. We text and call more to talk about my son and how I feel about my son. I started to understand my parents better as I became a parent. My son changed our relationship, so I wanted to celebrate our reconnected relationship by painting my son. And I think I've done pretty much what I planned, and I still need to work more, so I'm gonna work more.
inside here.
Hi, artists. All of your work looks so incredible. Wow, it's been really cool seeing the progression from the start. You guys have about 15 minutes left. So just keep working for the last 15 minutes. And then after that, the committee just asks that you stay on the Skype call for a little bit longer so we can take a nice screenshot with you and your artwork that we can share online afterwards. So we'll make an announcement as it gets closer to the end of your time.
So I've moved inside. I did have to finally move inside, everybody. I'm here with my trusty dog who hates storms, and but she really likes the ox, and so she decided to hang out here as we finish up.
Aw, that's such a cute dog. What's its name?
This is Miss Annie Mae, and she's super happy all the time except for Thunder, and just, as you can tell, she just pants and pants, and no amount of cuddles help her, but she's a good girl.
Oh, she's so cute.
She was watching out the window the whole time. What is he doing out there? Normally she sits right by me, and I'm in my studio right now, and comes in here, lays down, just kind of waits for me to finish, and so it's always nice to have a little companion who doesn't give you too much advice.
All right, so there are about 12 minutes left. So artists, if you have any final comments at all, please let us know just about your process, your final pieces. The audience would love to hear. And also please let the audience know how they can contact you or where you showcase your work online, on your websites. Yeah, they'd love to hear. So thank you so much. And yeah, please let everyone know. We also wanted to thank the audience for attending our live stream show. This was our first time that we did a live stream show for 8 to Create, but we're so happy with the outcome and for everyone that showed up and commented throughout the entire day. We're so grateful for all of your support. So thank you so much. And just remember that we posted the links to 8 to Create social media in the bio, and then we have the link to GoFundMe for donating to 8 to Create. And if you still want to collaborate on the mural board for audience collaboration, feel free to access that as well. But I'll leave it to the artists, and then if you have any final comments, we'll close it up in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say except for thank you, everybody. It was really fun to be with the 3 other artists here, and then the 4 this morning. I do agree, it was such a great variety of artists, and you know, the audience was able to see such a different, all different ways to create art, and I think that's really exciting. My piece isn't totally finished. I definitely want to, I had visions of really beefing up the area with wire where my horns are. And then I added this little red kind of trim. I'm going to add that down on the bottom, then down here too. But it's kind of hard with the rain starting. These are little tool holders. Anyway, so just adding a little touch of red. Red's kind of like a, you know, exciting color. And And I see Nikki's using red in hers too. It's everybody's got a little red, I think, today. But anyway, it's been fun, and I'm just going to kind of leave it here. My tools and everything are outside right now, but thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Michael.
I'll just go ahead and say my last little bit before I get into a time crunch, because I'm going to try and finish one more thing. But yeah, I've had so much fun doing this. It's definitely opened me up to the idea of doing more live artwork, which I have dreaded in the past, so that's definitely really exciting. You can find me on Instagram mostly, and it's just my full name, which I think, yeah, my full name is on the A to Create event sheet. So yeah, you can find me there and see how this piece ends up turning out when it's finished.
Awesome. Thanks, Claire.
I also want to say thank you to everyone who came and watched, and for A to Create for putting this on. I was really upset last year when we couldn't do it in person, so this was a really, really cool way to figure out a way to do it this year. And I really appreciate you inviting the artists back from last year so that we could be able to do this. And you, what else do I want to say? No, I said most everything I wanted to say about my piece. But you can follow me on Instagram. It's also my full name, Nikki Kelsay _art, or my personal if you want, Nikki _Kelsay. And similarly, my website is nikkikelsayart.weebly.com. So, yeah, thank you everyone again.
Okay, thank you for watching us, and thank you A to Create to organize this event. And I had really fun. It was really challenging, but it also very fun. And you can see me on Instagram, Jihee _Lee_art, or jiheelee.net. It's my website. And yeah, it was really fun, and thank you all.
Thank you, artists. We're going to leave the live stream up for 5 more minutes. So if you're just finishing final details, or if you're already finished with the piece for today, everything, as we've said a lot, it just really looks incredible. And we're really so impressed by your talent and the ability to create this in 4 hours, such a short time span. So just a few more minutes, and then we will close everything out. So if you just want to show your final pieces when you're finished with all the details, just feel free to do that. I know our audience would love to see everything. So thank you.
right, really quick, for anybody. Honestly, I don't know how much anyone was able to see of me making this, because I don't have it up on a canvas. But here is, maybe I can even get some better light. Here is the final piece, which is going to be probably just a little piece of something bigger. So, I mean, that'll be up on my Instagram and the 8 to Create page when we take a little screenshot of it. So, yeah, and thank you again. I don't know if I remembered to say this, but thank you to everybody who was watching and asking questions. Yeah, I had so much fun with it.
Thank you so much, Claire, for showing your final piece. It looks so beautiful. Thank you so much again, Jihee, Michael, Nikki, Claire, all of you. You're all fantastic. We've loved doing this live stream with you. Again, we wish we could have met in person, but maybe next year if there's a live show, we'll all get to see each other and come back for it. So again, we're so appreciative. You're all so incredibly talented, and thank you for sharing your talents with the audience and everyone that was able to view it today on the internet. So we're going to close out our live stream. Thank you once again to our audience, and we will see you artists back on the Skype call. Bye, everyone.
Bye.